yes, we all want sports to happen, and we really do want it because we've been bored. The closest thing we've had to sports is Korean baseball and NBA TV redoing hardwood classics from like 2003. Just stuff we don't really care about anymore, but we're going to act like we care because we're desperate for entertainment. With all that said, I truly believe the NBA should cancel the playoffs. And the NBA, quite possibly, might be my favorite professional sports league, either that or the NFL. And the biggest reason I love the NBA so much is the NBA playoffs. So much can happen. And I love it because you get so much content, because you have 4 rounds. All of them are best of 7. There's the first round, the semifinals, conference finals, finals. 7 games apiece if needed. And it provides a lot of great content, and that's really what we need right now, is we need content. We're desperate for it. Now more than ever, we need to see Lakers versus Clippers Game 7, but it's just not practical anymore. And my reason for saying this is there have been 16 players diagnosed with COVID-19 in the past few days or weeks. And some of these players have kept it to themselves and not necessarily been public with it. But others, like big name players, are coming out openly admitting that they have been diagnosed with COVID. And when you look at the players who have come out, it makes you question. Of the 16 diagnosed, 3 of them have publicly stated, yes, I've been diagnosed with corona. And it's just crazy to think about, because these are like superstar players. If you want to hear some of them, there is Malcolm Brogdon, who is currently a top 2 player, arguably the best player on a Pacers team that should be a serious contender in the Eastern Conference. So Malcolm Brogdon, who's the starting point guard on a playoff team, diagnosed with COVID. Nikola Jokic, he was actually diagnosed with COVID in Serbia, and he's the best player on the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets are one of the top seeds in the Western Conference, and their best player is battling COVID in a foreign country right now. This isn't like Trey Burke we're talking about. Malcolm Brogdon and Nikola Jokic are big name players on playoff teams. And we're supposed to just expect, ride it out and go to Orlando together to play some games. No, it's not going to work. And my other reason is I think we need to try as best as possible that the 2020 NBA champion does not have an asterisk next to their name in the history books. And how can that even happen anymore? Because you look at the players who haven't even been diagnosed, but are just electing to sit out regardless. Some of the names I see, Avery Bradley, who is the Lakers' starting point guard. The number 1 seed in the West is now without their starting point guard. Willie Cauley-Stein, he's the Mavs center. The Mavs have had injuries to their big men all season long. They lost Dwight Powell. And Cauley-Stein was supposed to be a big addition for them. They're now going to enter the playoffs without him. A team not even in the playoffs, but were invited to the bubble to compete for a spot, the Portland Trailblazers. Trevor Ariza, who was one of their big additions at the trade deadline, he's out. He's going to spend the time with his kid. He will not be attending the bubble in Orlando. So, and that's not even it. Nikola Jokic and Malcolm Brogdon just cap it off as players who might not be available. And yeah, maybe you think, oh, they'll be good to go. The players are beginning to want more in Orlando. And what I mean by that is, it's one thing if you invite all the players who are good to go in the playoffs. So of the 22 teams invited, if you invite all 22 of their players and they decide, all right, we're healthy, they pass tests, that's one thing. But players are beginning to want friends and family to have access to hotel rooms in Orlando. The bigger and bigger this grows in terms of people, the less safe it becomes. And yes, we all want basketball, but at the end of the day, safety is the top priority. And I think we often forget that when we're desperate for entertainment. Safety at the end of the day is at the top. Okay? I don't think you guys quite get that, alright? Quite frankly, I struggled to understand that because I do a sports podcast. I want sports just as much as anyone. But I also don't want to endanger the lives of NBA players, endanger the lives of NBA players' families, or anything like that. And, the more and more this becomes unstable, I just find it disrespectful. Timberwolves center Karl Anthony Towns literally lost his mother just a few months back from COVID. The NBA is pushing to do this unsafe little bubble in Orlando. They're pushing it hard, and quite frankly, it doesn't sound safe, especially with the possibility of friends and families being invited. They're pushing this really unsafe thing to happen in Orlando when one of their top stars lost his mother to the very thing that caused this. Have they not learned anything? Have they not witnessed firsthand what COVID can do? It's just baffling to me. And the biggest things for me so far, 16 players were diagnosed. Less than a handful of them have come out and publicly stated, yes, I was diagnosed. But of the players who have come out and openly admitted it, all of them were on playoff teams that will be invited back in Orlando. Malcolm Brogdon, Nikola Jokic, those guys are going to be playing in Orlando. It's one thing if Frank Ntilikina or Dennis Smith Jr. says, yeah, I've been diagnosed, they're not going to be there, what's that matter? But no, these people are going to be in Orlando, and I think it's worth noting just how horribly this could go, given the fact that an NBA All-Star lost his mother from this, and we're just going to sweep that under the rug and act like it didn't happen. And I just want to finish this little segment by saying, did anyone watch the NBA news yesterday? Literally, like the entire Brooklyn Nets basketball team has elected not to show up in Orlando. Like, Karis LeVert is going to be their best player heading into Orlando. Like, if you don't believe me, Spencer Dinwiddie is someone on the fence, but we don't know which way he's going to go. That's their best player at the moment. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, they're both injured, but they announced they're not going to show up. Wilson Chandler, DeAndre Jordan, those are all key players for a playoff team that have decided, you know what, we're going to sit this one out. Literally, the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference is going to enter the playoffs with Karis LeVert as their best player. Let that sink in. I do not want an asterisk next to the 2020 NBA champion. I just don't. But when you take away starting point guards on contending teams, you have to ask yourself, okay, how should this impact the legacy of whoever wins the championship this year? The Lakers don't have a point guard right now. They have Dion Waiters, who hasn't played a basketball game in months, and when he did, he got caught for drugs on an airplane. That's the Lakers starting point guard. The number 1 seed in the West. This is who they're entering the playoffs with. It's just insane to me, and as much as I want to believe that the playoffs will play out the way they should, like, what if the Utah Jazz win the NBA championship? No one will ever respect them for winning that title. The only thing we're going to hear about is COVID and the fact that, oh, if things were normal, this wouldn't have happened. And that's something we might have to face. We could very well see an 8 seed win the championship this year. And yeah, we got our games, we got to see it, but people are forever going to doubt whoever wins the title this year. Especially if it's a team like Oklahoma City or Utah. And I think that's my biggest fear, is that one of these underdog teams takes advantage of the situation, wins the championship, and some happy franchise wins their first title ever, and no one cares about it, and no one gives them the respect they deserve because of the circumstances. It's a sad thing, and I just believe we've hit a point where the playoffs should just be canceled. Like I said, safety is key, and the more and more, this is just becoming a disaster. We do want LeBron James in Orlando, but we can't have LeBron James's friends in Orlando. This is simply basketball. And if they're not in for what will likely be a very tough couple of months, well, then they just shouldn't show up. And that's just how I see things. At the end of the day, I'd love to see basketball, but in the end, it's becoming less and less realistic and feasible by the day.